They laughed when I walked in alone, heels clicking against the polished marble, every eye turning not out of love, but to tally my solitude. No +1. No fanfare. Just me. The girl they always overlooked. But none of them knew the man who was about to walk in after me. The one who would turn their smug smiles into stutters. The one who saw me when they never did. Weddings are supposed to feel like reunions. Warm, familiar. A chance to celebrate love and reconnect with people who know you from the inside out. But this was a performance. And I was the extra in someone else's play. The church was extravagant, of course. Camille would never settle for anything less. Towering flower arches, chandeliers the size of small cars, and aisle runners so white I hesitated to step on them. Even the air smelled like money and roses. Too sweet, too fake. I walked in alone. Not because I didn't have options, but because there was something I needed to see. I needed to look them all in the eye. My parents, my cousins, Camille, and remind myself why I stopped trying so hard to belong. The moment I stepped into the foyer, I felt the shift. It wasn't surprise. It was amusement. That half-hidden smile from my Aunt Marla. My cousin Jason nudging his girlfriend and whispering. And then the laughter, soft, brief, but cutting. She actually came, someone said behind a champagne glass. Kept walking back straight, chin up. My dress was simple, navy blue silk with an off-shoulder drape. Understated. Elegant. Not that they'd notice. In their eyes, I'd always be the plain one. Quiet one. The backup daughter. I spotted my parents near the front pew. My mother glanced at me, offered a tight-lipped nod, then turned back to the wedding planner fussing over the ribbons on the programs. My father didn't even look up from his phone. No one saved me a seat. I made my way to the third row, empty naturally, and sat at the edge, legs crossed, hands clasped. I could feel the burn of stares and hear the whispers behind fake coughs. I was used to it. Before we dive in, we'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below letting us know where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. We're excited to connect with all of you, so don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more amazing content. Now back to the story. Growing up, I was the background character in the Reyes family sitcom. Camille was the star. Homecoming queen, straight-A student, piano prodigy. She got the new clothes, the spotlight, the framed photos above the mantel. I got the hand-me-downs, the polite praise, and a scholarship I earned on my own because we just don't have the extra funds right now, sweetie. No matter what I did, it was never quite enough. A 4.0 GPA. Camille got a 4.2. A small freelance art award. Camille was runner-up in a national beauty pageant. Even when Camille was caught cheating on a college exam, my mother said, "She's just under a lot of pressure." When I got food poisoning on my birthday, she said, "Why did you eat so much cake?" I used to think if I worked hard enough, they'd see me. Really see me. But eventually I stopped trying. I built my own world. Got a degree in digital design, started freelancing for marketing agencies, and finally launched my own branding studio. Nothing huge yet, but mine. Everything I had, I earned. Alone. But even now, here, in this cathedral of forced smiles and curated joy, I still found myself wondering if they'd ever notice me. If maybe today, just maybe, they'd look at me and not laugh. The music changed. I stood. Camille appeared at the back of the aisle, glowing in white. Her dress sparkled with every camera flash. Gasps and sighs rose from the crowd like rehearsed adoration. I watched detached. She did look beautiful, I'd give her that. But I also knew the look in her eyes. That smug glint. That secret satisfaction that I was here to see her triumph. The ceremony was a blur. Vows about forever. Laughter at inside jokes. My parents dabbing fake tears. And me just trying to keep my composure. Afterward, we moved to the reception hall, which looked more like a palace than a banquet space. Tall crystal centerpieces. Champagne fountains. A full orchestra. Camille had outdone herself. I took a seat at my assigned table. Table 18, tucked behind a floral arrangement near the catering exit. Ironic, really. Still an afterthought, even at my own sister's wedding. Someone at the table leaned in. "Are you a friend of the groom?" "No," I replied calmly. "Sister of the bride." They blinked. "Oh, that's about right." I took a sip of water, scanning the room, wondering how long I needed to stay to be considered polite. I could already hear my mother's voice if I left early. "You can't even be supportive for one night?" Supportive? Of what? A family that treated me like background noise. Just then the doors opened. At first I thought it was another late guest. But heads turned. Conversations paused. Even Camille, mid-toast, lost her place in the speech. He walked in like he owned the air. Dark gray tailored suit. Confident but not cocky. His eyes swept the room once, then landed on me. And then he smiled. It was him. Elias Maddox. I stood slowly, stunned. "Elias!" He crossed the room toward me without hesitation. The whispering began again, louder this time. "Savannah," he said, warm and direct. "Hope you don't mind. I was in town and figured I'd crash the most extravagant wedding in the state. You look incredible." I tried to speak. Failed. Tried again. "What are you doing here?" "You mentioned the date in an email once," he shrugged casually. "Thought it'd be interesting to see your family in their natural habitat." I couldn't help but laugh. "You're insane." "Maybe. But I brought you something." He held up a small velvet box. No ring, thank God. Opened it. A silver pen engraved with my business logo. "I saw your website revamp. It's brilliant. Just wanted to say congrats. In person." For the first time that day I forgot where I was. Forgot the whispers, the laughter, the way Camille's eyes were burning into my back. Elias Maddox wasn't just anyone. He was the founder of Haven Core, a billion-dollar tech consultancy. We'd worked together a year ago when I redesigned his rebrand launch campaign. He was always respectful, even kind. But distant. I never imagined I made enough of an impression for him to show up here. Before I could say anything else, my mother appeared like a perfume-scented ghost. "Savannah, you didn't tell us you knew Elias Maddox," she chirped, her voice sugar-sweet and strangled with surprise. I stared at her. Didn't know it mattered. Elias extended his hand. "Pleasure to meet you." Savannah speaks very highly of her family. A lie, but a graceful one. My mother lit up like a Christmas tree. "Well, you'll have to join us for dinner. We'd love to know more about your business ventures." I saw it then, the shift. The same people who couldn't remember my birthday now scrambling to remember my name. All because he walked in and acknowledged me. Funny how validation works in families like mine. If you want to be seen, someone important has to see you first. I looked at Elias. "Wanna get out of here?" His smile widened. "Lead the way." As we walked past the stunned faces and flailing attempts at small talk, I realized something. I didn't need their approval anymore. 'Cause I had mine. And they would never forget this moment. I could still feel my mother's stare burning into the back of my dress as I walked out of the reception hall with Elias. It wasn't disbelief, it was calculation. The way she squinted just before I turned the corner, trying to piece together a version of the story where she was still in control. She was probably already practicing the lie. Savannah didn't tell us they were seeing each other. She's so private, just like me at her age. Let her try. The sunlight outside was softer now, the late afternoon glow washing the cobblestone path in gold. I exhaled as the door shut behind us, the air outside feeling real for the first time all day. No perfume-clouded greetings. No champagne giggles layered over veiled insults. Just oxygen. And Elias. "You sure you don't want to stay and cut the cake?" he asked, holding the car door open like we were stepping out of a gala. I scoffed. "That cake is a $5,000 metaphor for Camille's marriage. Pretty on the outside. Tasteless once you cut into it." He laughed. "Remind me to hire you as a speechwriter. I charge double for weddings." The car pulled away, gliding down the driveway lined with manicured hedges and judgmental guests. I watched the reception hall shrink in the rearview mirror, a grand facade housing so much rot beneath the marble. They really laughed at you? Elias asked after a moment, voice low. I didn't look at him. They always do. Not always out loud, but it's there. They laugh because I walk alone. Because I don't beg for their scraps. Because I didn't become who they wanted me to be. They don't know what to do with someone who can't be controlled. Then why go? Because I needed to see it again. One last time. The circus. The roles they force us to play. I had to see it for what it really is. So I could stop letting it hurt me. He nodded, thoughtful. And now? I turned to him. Now I burn the script. Dinner was at a quiet rooftop bistro downtown. No tablecloths or string quartets. Just soft jazz, sunset views, and a waiter who knew Elias by name. He let me choose the wine. I picked the boldest red they had. By the time the second course arrived, I could feel something loosening in me. The armor. The years of silence. It wasn't gone, but it cracked. You remember that branding pitch you sent me? Elias asked, sipping his drink. The one with the raven and the fire motif. He nodded. The campaign no one approved. I approved it. The board didn't. He leaned forward. But that pitch stayed with me. It was bold, disruptive, unapologetic. It was you. I looked at him, confused. Why are you telling me this now? Because I want to work with you again. Not as a client. As a partner. I laughed. Actually laughed. You're kidding. I don't joke about business. You're telling me you want to invest in my studio? I'm telling you I want to build something with you. Your design instincts, my platform. No boardroom noise. Just vision and execution. I stared at him. This wasn't a dinner anymore. This was a turning point. And yet, that old voice whispered in my head. The one shaped like my mother. Don't get your hopes up. This is probably pity. Or temporary. Or just another way you'll be reminded that you're not enough. Why me? Ask quieter now. Elias didn't blink. Because you don't wait for permission to be great. I wanted to cry. Instead, I took another sip of wine and looked out over the city. We stayed on the rooftop long after the plates were cleared. Talking about art, power, betrayal, and redemption. He told me stories about venture capital politics. I told him about the time my mother made me miss my senior prom to babysit Camille's cat. Eventually, he asked if I wanted to see his workspace. A private loft just a few blocks away where he tinkered with startup ideas in secret. I agreed. It was minimal, warm, full of books and whiteboards and glass walls overlooking the skyline. There was a photo on the desk, him and his mother at some charity gala. She believed in me before anyone else did, he said softly. When I dropped out of Stanford, she told me, fall forward. Let them trip over your brilliance. Sounds like the opposite of my family motto, I said. Mine was more like, smile and don't embarrass us. He looked at me for a long moment. Not the hungry kind of look. Not the patronizing type either. It was understanding. Steady. The kind of gaze that says, I see you. The real you. And I'm not afraid of it. That night, when I finally got home, I stood in front of the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. Not because of my appearance, but because of what I saw in my own eyes. Power. Not borrowed or inherited. By morning, the photos had started circulating. One of me and Elias walking out of the wedding. One of him holding the car door. Another of us laughing at the rooftop table. Taken by someone discreet. I didn't post them. Didn't have to. The internet did it for me. By noon, my cousin Angelica had texted me. Elias Maddox. Girl. Since when? By 2 p.m., Camille sent a single message. Really classy of you. And at 3:17 p.m., my mother called. I let it go to voicemail. Then again. And again. The fourth time I answered. Savannah, she started, already in guilt trap mode. Why didn't you tell us you were involved with that man? I'm not involved with him. I know him. I respect him. He respects me. There was a pause. Well, of course he does. You've always been so clever. I just think next time you should tell your family when you're making connections like that. We can help you navigate those relationships. I laughed. Like you navigated mine and Camille's. She bristled. There's no need to bring up old drama. It's not old if you still treat me like I'm the support act in someone else's show. Savannah, don't be cruel. No, you don't get to say that. Not after years of pretending I didn't matter unless I was useful to you. I'm not playing that role anymore. Silence. I don't need your approval. I never did. Hung up. I expected to feel guilt. I didn't. Felt free. That night, Elias sent me a file. Preliminary sketches for a joint venture proposal. Reyes and Maddox Creative Studio. He titled the deck, Burn the Script. Underneath he wrote, You ready? I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. Oh yes. Let them laugh. Let them whisper. Let them try to rewrite the story. This time I held the pen. And I was going to write the next chapter in permanent ink. The first time I heard my father say my name with actual respect, it was over a speakerphone call he didn't know I was on. She's working with Elias Maddox now, he said, voice clipped like the words tasted sour. We underestimated her. She's clearly come into her own. I didn't respond. I let him talk. I sat in Elias's office, sipping coffee while Elias leaned back with a smirk, the call on mute. It was supposed to be a private strategy discussion between Elias and my father's finance friend, Walter Delaney. But Walter had looped my father in. And Elias had looped me in. The irony wasn't lost on me. For most of my life, I had to beg my father just to proofread my resume. Now he was discussing my potential like I was a line item on a pitch deck. She's making moves, Walter agreed. And frankly, if her branding instincts are as sharp as Elias claims, I'd get her involved in that Caribbean expansion you were planning. Savannah? My father asked, incredulous. You think she's capable of that kind of visibility? She's already got it, Elias said, finally unmuting himself. And she doesn't need your permission. My father went quiet. I didn't realize I was shaking until Elias reached over and gently closed the laptop. Come on, he said. You're more than a topic of conversation now. You're the one directing it. But I couldn't let go of the feeling. That heat in my chest. The sting behind my eyes. I had waited years, to hear my father believe in me, even a little. And now that it was here, it felt like a transaction. It wasn't love. It wasn't pride. It was strategy. And I was a pawn again, just on a different side of the board. The next day, Camille called. I stared at the screen for 2 full rings before answering. Savannah, she said too cheerfully. You've been busy. That's one way to describe it. I saw the launch teaser for your new studio, she said, as if she hadn't already shared it in a group chat with 10 of our cousins for gossip. Very impressive. Is it real or just a collab? It's mine, I said flatly. I built it. Well, she said, congrats. Really. I just wanted to say I'm sorry if things got tense at the wedding. That wasn't about you. It was just a lot going on. Tense. They laughed at me. They whispered like I was a joke. And now that the headlines were starting to circulate, Maddox taps underdog designer for next venture. Camille wanted to rewrite history. It's fine, I lied. I've moved on. Great, she said. Actually, speaking of moving on, do you think Elias would be open to discussing a branding refresh for my skincare line? Bare by Camille has been steady, but I think with the right positioning. I laughed. Actually laughed. You're asking me to pitch Elias your beauty brand? Well, yes. But through your studio. I'd obviously hire you. Full rate. I could feel the smugness under her words. She thought this was a victory. That dangling a check in front of me made her generous. But she hadn't understood a thing. I'll pass, I said. What? Why? Because I only build brands with integrity, I replied. And if I see one more influencer peddling organic glow, without disclosing the fillers in their fridge, I might choke. You're seriously saying no? Yes, Camille. Saying no. Just like you all said no to me for years. Her tone changed instantly. This isn't about the past. It's entirely about the past. And the present. And the fact that you're only calling now because someone else finally thinks I matter. Hung up. This time I felt nothing. Not guilt. Not regret. Just clarity. I was done being the family's fixer, their punchline, their backup plan. I was no longer the girl who stood alone at weddings. I was the woman who walked out with a billionaire and a business empire forming beneath her heels. Still, not everything came easy. The week we launched Reyes and Maddox Creative, the press was relentless. Some called it visionary. Others called it a strategic romance. One tabloid ran a piece titled From Wallflower to Power Player. Savannah Reyes's sudden glow-up with side-by-side photos of me from Camille's college graduation and the wedding. The glow-up wasn't sudden. It was just the first time anyone bothered to look. Got hate mail. Mostly from women like Camille. Social climber. Gold digger. One called me a rebrand bimbo. I forwarded that one to Elias. He framed it and hung it in our office break room. But the part that shook me most was when my mother showed up. Unannounced. My apartment. I opened the door and there she was. In a beige pantsuit, hair pulled back like she was attending a board meeting. She held a bag of lemon bars. My favorite. The one she never used to make. I was in the neighborhood, she said. I stared. You live 45 minutes away. She smiled like we were in a sitcom. Can I come in? Let her. She looked around like she was seeing me for the first time. The studio blueprints on the table. The awards on the wall. The framed photo of me and Elias in front of the downtown skyline. You've made a nice place, she said. I did. We stood in silence. I waited for her to get to the point. Finally she sighed. I was hard on you. That was new. I didn't always know how to parent someone like you. Camille was easy. She did what we expected. You questioned things. Wanted more. And I think maybe that scared me. I raised an eyebrow. So you punished me for not being manageable. Her eyes glassed over. I didn't realize I was doing that. Until now. Why now? Because people are watching. And I see the woman you've become. And I don't want to be one of the people who has to pretend they supported you when you didn't need them anymore. I blinked. Hard. I wanted to believe her. I did. But part of me couldn't stop thinking, is this real remorse, or just another rebrand now that I've become inconvenient to ignore? You don't get to rewrite the story, I said softly. You don't get to skip to the ending where we hug and make peace just because you've suddenly decided I'm worth it. She didn't argue. She just nodded. I know, she whispered. But I'm here. If you ever want to rewrite it together. Then she left the lemon bars and walked out. I stood in the silence of my apartment, the lemon bars untouched. For the first time, I didn't feel desperate for her love. I didn't feel like the child begging to be picked first. I felt like a woman standing in her own damn power. The next morning, I walked into the Reyes and Maddox office and found Elias sketching out the next campaign. He looked up and grinned. Good timing. I was just about to send out the deck for review. I set my bag down and walked to the board. Let's change the tagline, I said. Make it sharper. He handed me a marker. Your move. So I wrote. And for the first time in my life, the story was mine. Mine to design. Mine to direct. Mine to decide who got a role. And who was cut from the credits entirely. Let them whisper. Let them spin their versions. Had my voice. My vision. And I was just getting started. The day I saw my father cry was the same day he asked me for help. It was subtle. He'd never allow a full breakdown. But I saw it in the twitch of his jaw, the glassy stare he tried to disguise by looking out the window of my new office. He had aged since the wedding. Or maybe I was just seeing him clearly for the first time. I wouldn't come if it weren't serious, he said. I didn't offer him coffee. I didn't sit down. So don't come, I replied. No one asked you to. He exhaled slowly. I know I wasn't the kind of father you needed. But what's happening with the firm, Camille's husband, that merger? If we don't move quickly, we could lose everything. I wanted to laugh. My whole childhood, he acted like feelings were distractions, like I was defective for needing validation. And now here he was, emotional and desperate, because his world was collapsing. I'm sure Camille's got it handled, I said, letting his words echo the ones he once told me when I needed him most. She's out of her depth. She doesn't see the traps in the contract they're offering. But you do. So he admitted it. I was sharper. Martyr. The daughter he'd trained himself to overlook had become the very thing he now depended on. Savannah, he said, lowering his voice. You built something real. Something I can't even understand. But I respect it. And I need that clarity now. I need you. I leaned against my desk, arms crossed. When I walked alone into Camille's wedding, you didn't even say hello. He closed his eyes. I was embarrassed. Of me. Of how wrong I was about you. Silence filled the room. Heavy and honest. Let me be clear, I said. You don't get to stand behind me now that I'm in the light if you couldn't even reach for me in the dark. You left me to drown in that family dynamic. And now you want me to be your life raft. I let the words sink in. But here's the thing, Dad. I'm not drowning anymore. I'm the tide. He swallowed. So that's a no. That's a maybe, I said, walking toward the door. But if I help, it's on my terms. Camille apologizes. Publicly. You name me as partner on the revised contract. And Mom sends me a letter. Handwritten, no email, no assistant, acknowledging how she treated me. No gaslighting. Just the truth. His mouth tightened, but he nodded. Done. I held the door open for him. Then we'll talk tomorrow. When he was gone, I locked the door behind him and sat at my desk. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From power. This is what it feels like, I thought. To not just win, but to win on your own terms. That night, Elias took me to a rooftop garden he'd rented for the evening. There were fairy lights strung between trees, soft jazz playing from hidden speakers, and candles arranged in a perfect spiral around a table set for two. Romantic bribery? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Not bribery, he said, slipping a hand into mine. Gratitude. You've been carrying a weight your whole life. You deserve something that's just beautiful for the sake of being beautiful. I didn't know what to say, so I kissed him. Later he held me under the stars and I let myself imagine, for the first time, that love didn't always have to come with conditions. The next day Camille called me. Her voice was shaky. I'm sorry, she said. You didn't deserve the way we treated you. At the wedding. At every family gathering before that. I let Mom and Dad paint you as a shadow, when you've always been the light. I didn't cry. I just said, thank you. Her public statement went live the next day. A clean, polished Instagram post, tagging me in the studio. My inbox exploded with messages. Collabs, media requests, invitations. But none of it mattered as much as the letter that arrived that afternoon. Handwritten. Postmarked from my parents' neighborhood. It was from my mother. It wasn't long. Just a single page. But it was real. She admitted to shaping me with silence. To dismissing my potential because it didn't fit her image of success. She said watching me rise had broken something inside her, and rebuilt something better in its place. She ended it with, I hope one day I'll deserve to sit in the audience and cheer for you out loud. Until then, I'm proud of you, even if you don't need me to be. For the first time in my life, my mother had chosen humility over image. And I chose peace over revenge. Not because they deserved it, but because I did. That weekend, we hosted the Reyes and Maddox studio launch. Floor-to-ceiling visuals, immersive displays. A keynote I wrote myself and delivered with fire. The room was packed, press, creatives, investors. And yes, my family. They stood in the back, watching, quiet. When I walked on stage, the applause was thunderous. But the only sound I cared about was my own voice. I told the story of a girl no one believed in. Who sat alone at her sister's wedding, laughed at by people who claimed to love her. Who walked out not in shame, but in defiance. who found power not in revenge, but in rebirth. I ended with the company motto I had written weeks before. Burn the script. Write your own. The room stood. Even my mother clapped. Later, after the guests had filtered out and the lights dimmed, I stood alone in the space. Elias came up beside me, wrapping an arm around my waist. "You did it," he said. "No," I corrected him, smiling. "We did it." He kissed my temple. "Proud of you." I looked out across the room. The ghost of that wedding day flickered behind my eyes. Me in that dress, walking alone through stairs and whispers. But that girl was gone. In her place stood a woman who had rewritten the story, and burned the old one to ashes. Let them laugh. Let them wonder. Let them wish they'd seen it coming. 'Cause now. They watched me walk into every room like I owned it. 'Cause I did. They laughed when I walked in alone, but they weren't laughing when I walked out with power, purpose, and a billionaire by my side. Never let anyone write your worth, especially not the ones who tried to silence you. If this story hit home, don't scroll just yet. Drop a fire emoji in the comments if you've ever been underestimated. Subscribe for more real, raw, and revenge-filled stories that flip the script. And remember, your comeback doesn't need their applause, just your courage. Because the best revenge is building a life they can't touch.